Have you ever thought about where you start to change? What is it? Is there a process? Is there a pathway? Today we want to talk about the fact that in order to be different, something has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then it's really hard to change. Join us today on The Difference.
You are listening to The Difference, a presentation from The Hour, a 54-year ministry. Steve, first we started on radio, then went to television, then we went streaming online. So at Our Stream, you can watch our programming from all those years. So it's at thehour.org. And now, here we are, back doing audio again on this wonderful podcast called The Difference.
It's cool.
It is cool.
It is cool. And I want to look back to the website. When people go to it, they're going to see a header of Thaxton Studios. One of the cool things about going to that site is they not only get the hour, but they get to access some of your studio's creative stuff and kind of encounter all the things you're doing in order to make your own difference.
Well, you know, our life and our career and our paths, they really have overlapped in so many areas, and somebody said something like your films have kind of a spirituality to them, even though they're secular film. They're just biographical films or something. I believe if you're a believer and you have a certain view of the world and a belief system, that transcends everything about me. So, everything that we do. So in a way, it makes sense for me just to have a landing place with everything there. But we've had this rich partnership with the Hour. So being able to offer, and some people coming to look at something about the Eudora Welty film, then they says, what is this Hour? Right. And it gets people there that maybe would not have come across that another way. So organically, here they are, and they're looking at some things. I love about our website on Our Stream at thehour.org. I love that it has not only just things from the Hour, it's got old programs from Palette to Palette that I produced with Robert St. John and Wyatt Waters on Mississippi Public Broadcasting. It's got Keith Tonkel's video tribute that we played at his funeral and different clips from him over the years. If you're a Keith fan, you need to go there. There are a lot of good stuff. Sam Gore, my mentor. There are a lot of programs and things that I did over the years with him. It is fun to look back, and all of these things interweave and intertwine in my life to create, where we are now.
Right. And I was looking back and seeing our first video efforts at The Difference that you have there. There's a Billy Graham piece, and we've got James Moore, and there's just some neat pieces that people can go and see our faces, which we're trying to avoid now, and allow them to see.
And people are so grateful. That's the good feedback we're getting.
They are. They're just, the money has been pouring in.
Exactly. Please stay off of video.
Exactly.
Just let us listen to you, please.
Last episode, we kind of wound up talking about the idea of God's prevenient grace going ahead of us and leading us into our call. And one of the things as I talk about difference is that I've been involved in churches and ministries and community outreach that gets it wrong. And, of course, this is my opinion, and it's very judgmental, but I'm not backing down from it. And that is that it's kind of a do-unto kind of ministry where we ride in on our white horses and begin to do work and do unto people. And what I know about being different is that God doesn't operate that way. That God is always calling people in context and leading them to places within the world. Whenever Jesus told the disciples, now go into Jerusalem and Judea, and this progressive concentric circles of realms, we start at home. We're called out of context. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is that a very central piece of becoming different is discerning our call. In our last session, you talked about the whole idea of you're encountering your call into doing video ministry and
Right.
working at First Baptist and
Fanning the flame.
fanning the flame. And I talked a little bit about, my dad's father's call and how they kind of deferred that. But I want us to dig into that a little bit, because the truth is, to find our way into difference is to begin to get our identity. I have a servant school course that we have that I've done. It's called iCore. And for me, it's kind of my discovery of how I became different and the process that God uses. In the very beginning, the I is identity, and that is kind of finding who we are.
Right.
And not just in this kind of mystical kind of new age thing, but a sense of the deep discovery of how we were built, how we were wired, what we have within us that makes us us. And as we begin to do that, it reminds me, Max Lucado, who's one of my favorite storytellers, talks about in his book On the Anvil that we're all in one or three places. We're either on the anvil being shaped by God, we're in the hand of God being used by God, or we're in the broken pile, being waiting to be repaired, or just wasting our life away. And so as we start today, I want you to think about your call, not just as an artist. You said last time, well, I'm really not a minister. Lord have mercy, you're a minister. You have probably touched more lives through what you've done than any preacher will ever do. So as you think about that call, what kind of comes up?
Well, we also talked last time about learning from those who get things wrong. So I've ministered plenty in that aspect, in that arena. It was funny. We did an event with John Anderson signing the Bicycologues books, and we spoke to a big group of artists the other night, and it was great. It was at a church, and as we're bringing stuff in, a woman is approaching, and they've got lots of activities going on that night, and she's approaching me in the hallway, and she's not coming to our event. She's going to something else at the church, and I see her coming down the hall, and I said, hello. And she said, you should be coming with me to my Weight Watchers meeting. And I'm like, well, thank you. And she said, don't laugh. It's important. I said, well, I've lost about 50 pounds this year. I'm working on it. And she said, well, that is good. And then she turned around and went off, and as only a good church person can do, But I think how many times, you're talking about do unto others, and we try to do things unto folks, and that may not be the best tactic to use. And Lord, help us in this election season with people from both sides and the vitriol and all of this. There is a certain way to draw people into you. And in answer to your question about call, I'm just responding to people who poured into me encouragement, inspiration, life. I never until very recently did I ever really have a life plan, a life path. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. If you look at my bank account, you'll see that that's true, and there are repercussions for that. But I've kind of, when I've been inspired by something and tried that and doing that, I loved teaching when I was teaching. But then I felt drawn to go and do production work more, and that has been incredibly rewarding. And now we're back mentoring again at the Institute for Southern Storytelling at MC. So my life has been kind of just weaving and then partnering with you and with Shane Stanford and with other folks who we've helped do ministry over the years. But there hasn't been this here. I've got this plan and this is what I'm doing. It's been the things God has placed in front of me, and yes, He places these opportunities. But if you work hard, all of a sudden it seems like you have more opportunities. And the harder you work and the more that you are trying to love people and be like Jesus to folks, more and more opportunities, you get trusted with more and more, I think. And now I do have a plan. I do see a very succinct, real call with what we're doing at the Institute. So at the Institute, we are doing and I'm not minimizing, the path that's led me here, because in all these things that I've ever done, I have felt a call while I was doing that. But I'm just saying I didn't plan. But now with the Institute, where we are, Robert St. John and I, approached MC, and Dr. Blake Thompson said, we will give you space and you guys do your films and your television programs here, and we can let students pour into that. My son did the music for the Walter Anderson documentary, won a regional Emmy for music composition.
As did you.
Well, and we won for the best documentary, historical, and that was really, really cool. But it woke us up to think, well, wait a minute. We could use our platforms instead of, hey, we've got to do it all ourselves or hire people. What if we bring alongside talented young people and train them up in the ways of positive storytelling, being encouragers, finding the right story to tell that's going to connect with people, and because of that, we are seeing more and more. I have a meeting this afternoon with a young man who's, can I come by and talk with you? And then they hear, hey, I hear you're doing this short film. I can work with sound. So we're plugging students in, and it's been just a hoot and a blessing watching God place us with these divine appointments and these intersections with young people, especially, who are wanting to just be a part of something that has energy and life. And isn't that what we're all searching for?
I think it is. The language you used is so perfect with where I really hoped we'd go today, and that is, a lot of times when we think of call, we think of this very definitive, very clear path that has us going to a destination. And, when I first started telling my call, it would always be, my first call into the ministry out of high school as a youth minister. But what I'm discovering now is that the scriptural idea that the Lord goes before us and prepares a place is a dynamic thing. It's not a static thing. And that the reason that happens is we live in a complex world where God is such an incredibly creative and ingenious God that we're like minute men and women waiting to be called into a skirmish or into a situation or
Right.
into a life to be able to bring ourselves. I mean, we circle back to that Eugene Peterson thing. Here's what I want you to do. Make your offering your everyday life. And one of the biggest struggles I struggled with in my ministry was this sense of, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be it rather than to be present, and to understand that the calling was to be in the moment, to be myself, to be available, and to do the things that I do. And in doing that, I was making a difference, not only in my life, but in the lives of the people that are around. And it was kind of upside down
Yeah.
from what I'd always thought the call was. It's, in this world, we were having the little exchange last episode about, oh, I'm not listening. I was thinking of something else. We can
Do what?
we can so easily be distracted with trying to control and make things happen. And it's not that planning and order are not incredibly important, but it's this sense that as I've gotten older, one of my struggles and gifts has been to all of a sudden be present and to pay attention and to be an observer and to see what's happening around me and to see the opportunities as they come. That changed my whole perspective of what it means to be called.
Well, we look for those big moments.
Mm-hmm.
If I write books that are successful like Max Lucado, then that's where ministry is happening, and that's when we've made it, and that's when we feel a sense of accomplishment. It's the story of Teddy Roosevelt being on the safari, and he's coming home on the boat in New York, and all of the reporters and everybody cheering, "Welcome home, Teddy, welcome home." And here's a pastor who'd been a missionary for 30 years or something, and he's returning home, and he's walking down the gangplank, and there's no one greeting him. And he's kind of lamenting and saying, there's nobody welcoming me home. And this still small voice in his mind said, you're not home yet. And there will be a welcome. We see these big things and say that that's where it's happening.
Right.
I had a student come to me. She had been a student of mine my first year to teach at Clinton Junior High School. I was recently speaking and showing an early wealthy screening at the Mississippi Arts Commission, kind of like a teachers conference kind of thing for art teachers and art education people in the state. And she came. She's taller than me. All right, this Amia Edwards, a wonderful, wonderful young lady. And she was taller than me, I think, in the 8th grade as well. So this is my first year to teach, and I'm starting this video production class. And we're going to do a little newscast. And something just said to me, I bet Amia would be good at that. So I tapped her on the shoulder in the cafeteria. Amia, would you be interested in being one of my news anchors on this program that we're starting? And she was excited and said yes. So every morning I would pull up at 7:30 outside the junior high, and there's Amia outside waiting. I said, oh, okay, Amia's already here. What I did not know was Amia's mother had to go to work early, and for Amia to be able to be there at 7:30, her mother dropped her off between 5 and 5:30.
Wow.
And she would wait 2 hours on Mr. Thaxton. I had no concept that this was happening. She was so excited about it. She waited there 2 hours, waited for me to arrive to be a part of that. And we had a great year, a successful. We did a kickball video kind of parody thing. It was wonderful. All these years later, she came to tell me she has become an actress, and not only that, she has a program called Amiable Productions where she mentors students in the Jackson Public Schools. She mentors 250 students in the JPS and underprivileged students in teaching them acting and performing and just pouring life into them. And she's standing in front of this group of people and saying that all of that stems back from me tapping her on the shoulder. Now, I did the first year and it was all kind of rough, and we get better with production, and I think, all right, now we're firing on all cylinders. Now this is where something's happening. But the first person I tapped on the shoulder, God was already doing something that he was going to continue to work all these years later. That wasn't a plan. It was just, hey, I need somebody. Let's do something. I've become more intentional over the years in trying to include folks, but that was something that confronted in my mind of, I didn't give it as much importance back in, but God was, the old saying, if God can speak through an ass, he certainly can speak through me. He can do things through me even when I'm not even aware, but just being willing and saying, let's start this program and who can we include? And sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah. And I think, as we're saying this, the theme that seems to emerge, a lot of times leadership mentors will say, be assertive, you got to be type A, take charge, do this. What the Christian faith said is offer yourself to God and let him lead you to where you need to be. Your gift is the offering of yourself, making yourself available. And the key skill is not this massive BHAG, being able to have these plans and going in and do it, but it's really the gift of listening and paying attention to the sense that God is already ahead of you. God has been doing the work that only God can do in real time, and that if you listen, then part of the joy of the call is kind of like having a phone call. What would a call be if the phone just rang and you said, hey, glad you called? There's got to be a conversation there. The purpose of the call is a conversation. Right. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about...
It's about blooming where you're planted.
Exactly, and being available where you are. When I was at the conference office, we created a missional relationship with Zimbabwe. And I had the privilege of being able to go there. And our team went, and we spent one of the days at Zimbabwe Africa University, and right on the campus is an orphanage for AIDS orphans. And we were there, and my task for the day was to help build a sadza mill, which is the African version of grits, and it's good. And so we were digging the footing for it, and I was assigned for a guy, and we're doing it by hand. And so we're sitting at the site, and I'm very much Western world's get her done checklist. There's a job here, and I'm digging the ditch and working on it, and I look up, and the guy that I'm supposed to be working with is over talking to a friend. And so under my breath, I'm cussing him. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I came all this way, and this is how you helped me, Chabaza, and which means working alongside. And so I stopped, and I was going to get some water, and I overheard part of the conversation. And the guy I was working with was saying, you know, these Americans don't understand Chabaza. It's not about the work. It's about the fellowship and about being together as we do the things that need to be done. And boy, you talk about, I felt like I shrank where I would have had to crawl out of that hole. But he knew I overheard. And so he came back over and he sat down, and there was a little bench near where we were, and under it was a paper sack. And he pulled the paper sack out, and he said, you know, my wife baked some fresh bread and some stuff. Let's sit down and talk a minute. And so for the next 30 minutes, we talked about that whole idea of how task-driven, that do-unto stuff, rather than Chabaza, about being together. And so I've almost wanted to have that tattooed on me, Chabaza. It's this mission, being different, is not about the doing. It's about the being together as we do. And so that's the gift God gives us in this call, is that he calls us to Chabaza, not to mission or to do unto, but to be together as we do the tasks that are before us in this world.
Well, the irony, because why are you creating a building? Why are you're creating it so you have space for connection? And yet sometimes it becomes more about the building. And
exactly.
Well, I remember John Maxwell, one of his books, maybe it was in one of his leadership books, he said that he was a pastor at a church in California. There was a young associate pastor, and he comes into the church, and in the sanctuary, the senior pastor is over there talking with a member of the congregation, and an older gentleman, and the associate pastor says, good morning, walks through, them talking, and goes to his office. Well, in just a few minutes, the senior pastor follows him into his office, and he said, what are you doing? And the young guy's cranking up the computer and all. He said, I'm getting ready to do my work. He said, you just walked through your work. That gentleman out there needed to talk. You could have been a part of that. You just walked through. Whatever you're about to do on this computer is not as important as you just walked through. That has always stuck with me, and because I get tasked, and everybody says, well, how do y'all do so much stuff? You do books and you do films, and part of it is because we work our tails off, and we work really hard, and that is the thing that I get most forgetful about, is that sometimes, hey, let's stop and have a cup of coffee and celebrate this and enjoy this and have communion and have these relationships along the way. If not, what else? What are we doing this for?
Exactly. One of my favorite words, every staff I've ever been with, is, let's marinate in this.
Yeah.
And whenever you're preparing a meal and you marinate the meat or whatever it is in it, you're allowing the flavors to infuse into it. We don't spend enough time marinating, allowing what we've just experienced to do its work on us. If we're not still and really let that kind of ferment and penetrate and get into the very essence of who we are, then the change can't happen. You see, if he hadn't said what he said, I would have finished with my blisters and my dug ditch and gone, done with that, and been through.
Yeah.
But in another episode, I'll go back and talk. That was just the beginning of an encounter, because later on at the orphanage, I met somebody else that reminded me of the other part of this call. The call is not one call. That's all. It is this sense that God is calling us constantly and calling us to the next place. We're migratory people.
Right.
We're not made to set up camp and live there. The best days of the Israelite people, ironically, were when they were wandering in the wilderness and woke up every day in the presence of God, cared by God. And we don't want that. We want to set up camp. We want stuff on the shelf. We want everything there. And God is like, hey, come on. We got other places to go. You got other people to meet. You got other things to do. I got work to change you, to make you different.
Other plans. And that's like I framed from the beginning here is, I was lamenting that I didn't have an overall master plan. God did.
Yeah, and it's not like, here's the thing, some people in this predestination kind of idea is that God has this plan, and if, it's going to happen whether you do it or not. Well, God in the beginning gave us free choice, and here's the deal. God is constantly replanning. That's why prevenient grace is. If I don't respond to the call, he calls somebody else. Yeah. If I'm not there to be present to do, God has work to do, and he's going to call us to it. And if the work doesn't get done, then God figures out another plan, which is just so incredible to me. Yeah. It is. It's elegant and gracious at the same time.
So anyone listening to this and you're thinking, boy, I've really screwed up. My life is off path. I mean, if you knew everything about Steve and me, we don't have it all together. And that's part of what we're saying is it's being different, and being a difference is not about having it all together. No. It's about a mindset of wanting to be better. I don't know what to do to please you, God, but my wanting to please you pleases you.
Right.
And we might mess it up along the way trying to get there, but being different is about a mindset. And if you're struggling with things and you're having difficulties and feeling, I don't have a plan, I don't have a call, maybe you need to be still.
Right.
Know that he is God, and just be still and be open to hearing that, and then let him reveal that to you.
That's it. And the being still part is kind of realizing where you are. Any navigational app not only has your destination, but it has where you are. Right. You can't know how to get where you're going unless you know where you are.
And it probably won't tell you the estimated time of your arrival, so don't look for
that.
Exactly.
God's not going to say, well, So let's leave this challenge with those folks listening to today's episode. Where are you in this sense of your identity and what you're becoming? Are you happy with where you are? Are you feeling like you're heading at least somewhere, or you're feeling there's a purpose or direction in your life? If not, then let us invite you to be still, marinate a little bit, look at your circumstances, open yourself up to God. Many times people think prayer is this kind of rub the genie lamp and ask God to do things, but mostly it's that conversation, the call of, hey, Lord, Steve calling. I'm really having some issues here. Can you help me figure out what to do next? Can you help me understand what's going on here? What an incredibly intimate, wonderful opportunity.
Well, and I was sounding a lot like a minister just a few moments ago. If I was a real minister, I'd take up an offering now. So we won't do that. Instead,
oh no, you can give online.
You can give on. See, you are a minister. So thank you for joining. This is great. We're out of time, but we are so thankful that you're listening, and hopefully God has things to say through each of us. Even through that donkey.
Exactly. And as always, hey, remember, live loved.
You've been listening to The Difference, a presentation of The Hour. The Difference is made in conjunction with and partnership with the Institute for Southern Storytelling at Mississippi College. To find out more about the Institute and ways that we are partnering and mentoring young lives through storytelling, filmmaking, and more, visit us at southernstorytelling.mc.edu. And for more resources from The Hour and from The Difference, check us out at our Hour Stream platform with the streaming content at thehour.org. I'm Anthony Thaxton. Thanks for joining us.